You aren't being a proper woman, therefore you must be a witch. You must be a witch.
Hello to the Missing Witches Coven. It's your Auntie Amy, and we are joined today by another coven of sorts. It's a round table, so you're going to hear a bunch of voices today, but I'm going to start with someone you already know, having been on the show a couple times. One of our so-called patron saints of the Missing Witches project is, and by that I mean someone that we know that we can go to and just have our minds blown and have complete faith in your intellect and your values. Sorry. This is turning into a bit more of a blowjob than I expected it to, but
I'll take it.
That said, I think we're all getting a little bit lonely these days, so the blowjob of compliments will continue. So I'm going to hand it to you, WhiteFeather, to introduce yourself and to get the ball rolling.
Okay, thanks, Amy. I think probably the best place for me to start is to read what I sent you. Our little blurb. So we are 4 women battling COVID-19 from our homes in Montreal and Gatineau, Quebec, and Cannes, France. Did I pronounce that properly, Amelie?
This one is Caen, but it's okay.
Caen, okay. Caen, France. We are artists and feminists bound together through our shared experiences of embodying a disease that has baffled the world. And we were drawn together first through mutual acquaintances in the art world. And then we became more tightly bound by providing each other with essential support through constant presence, witchy knowledge, and unconventional care practices in response to medical communities that have just not been able to meet our needs. So we are Amelie Deschamps.
Hello.
Becca Blackwood.
Salut.
Krista Muir.
Hello.
Did I pronounce your name properly?
Well, if you go full Scots, it's Muir. But like anything from Muir to Moyer, it's cool.
Amazing.
I have to interrupt here 1 second as a little Easter egg for the Missing Witches listeners. Risa and I actually met through Krista. And we've talked about you on the podcast before, but it's we were just saying, like, super bizarre to have you on the show in this context and have this be the way to break the ice. But yeah, Risa and I have known Krista for, I don't know how long have I lived in Montreal, Chris? 18 years or something, I think I've known you.
A very long time.
Yeah, a very long time. And I didn't know that you had encountered WhiteFeather, who obviously I'm a big fan of. Anyway, so a little
it's
Easter
cosmic
for the Missing Witches listeners.
Yeah, we're full circle here.
We are our full circle moment. Please.
So the 4 of us share an eerie similarity. That are not talked about in mainstream media. Yeah.
Can you start that sentence again, because you actually ghosted out the word eerie.
I ghosted out on eerie. Okay.
On eerie. I'm gonna leave that in.
Okay.
Spooky. Mm-hmm.
So the 4 of us share an eerie similarity of atypical symptoms that are not often talked about in mainstream media, such as pericarditis. And whole body neurological damage, along with all of the complications surrounding these serious ailments caused by COVID-19. And one of the biggest challenges that we've faced has been fighting for our lives, literally fighting for our lives, while being disbelieved and dismissed by doctors, family members, and sometimes humanity at large. So as feminists, we know that this is already a pervasive problem for women who are navigating the medical landscape. And so we've believed in each other. And that's truly helped us survive and work towards recovery from this disease. And something else that we can talk about, what's helped us a great deal, has been a really invaluable resource that's facilitated by a queer feminist network in New York City called The Body Politic and their COVID-19 recovery support group. So this group gained over 5,000 members. I don't know where they're at now.
They're at like 14,000, I think, now.
Are you? Wow. Yeah. So, you know, just a couple of weeks ago, they were only at 5,000. So they've exploded just through word of mouth, which is incredible. And the members of the support group includes medical professionals as well, who've been infected on the front lines. And so this support group has provided us with a wellspring of information, free resources, but most importantly, the kind of validation that has been missing that we've really needed. So, you know, we're here to say that it has not escaped us that the most cutting edge, respectful, and caring information about the disease has been made accessible through an intersectional queer feminist network. So the whole thing has been dramatically life-altering for each one of us. And we hope that the four of us can continue to heal together and also pave the way to help others who get sick after us. And we know that that's just an explosion happening in the US right now in particular, but also in Montreal. So we want to help others navigate the failures of the healthcare systems globally. And I mean, Amelie can talk a little bit about what's happening in France as well, all while prioritizing mental health during these unprecedented, very scary times.
Yeah, I think it was Amelie, you sent this quote that I want to read from Adrienne Rich. And the quote that you sent is, there must be those among whom we can sit down and weep and still be counted as warriors. And I mean, obviously that's particularly in this situation, but also in any given situation, we talk a lot about vulnerability being strength. And I think it was back in May when the things started to pop off. A good friend of mine manages a grocery store. So I brought her onto the show, and she was also involved in a sort of support group for people who are on the front lines, and just was finding it so useful and so healthy for her. So how did all of you make this coven? We agreed on the term coven. They're allowing me to use it in this,
the COVID coven.
The COVID coven.
Yeah.
The coven.
Yeah. So how did this formulate and formalize?
Started with Amelie.
Then maybe I'll ask you, Amelie, how did this formulate and formalize?
I was in the hospital. It was, I think it was on the 9th of April. Would it be that? Or I don't know. I don't remember actually.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact date.
But I know I was in the hospital and I was in the ER and waiting for my results and everything. And I was scrolling on Facebook. And I saw WhiteFeather posting some stuff saying she was sick and had come back from Australia, and she was like sort of listing a few symptoms that were very similar, well, actually just the same as I was experiencing, and I can't actually, that's the thing with food, I can't remember precisely.
We all have short-term memory loss, so there might be a lot of like
So this is one of the symptoms. Short-term.
Yeah.
Brain lag.
It's real.
So I remember, but I don't. That she just, something was like fuck, and then I just wrote to her like we had never met. We just knew each other from an art center that I had worked in, blah blah blah, but like we never met. And I wrote to her saying I was sorry to pop somehow in her life, like even if we didn't know each other, and enter directly a very intimate subject, but that I thought her symptoms were very serious and that she should take it seriously and actually go to the ER.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And I had already been experiencing COVID symptoms in Australia. That's where it started for me. And in Australia, they refused to test me. They're like, no, go home. Don't come back unless you're gasping for breath. You know, even though my partner had traveled through the Middle East and had just arrived back and we were both sick. I guess there weren't enough tests at the time. This is sort of the classic story that's emerging. So I had sort of gone through some symptoms from about March 12th until the end of March. And my symptoms had seemed to subside. And around April 2nd, I got on a plane to come back to Canada because basically the Australian government said, go home. So that's what I did. And once I was back in Canada, I guess about 4 days after I got back, all of my symptoms came back, but with a new set of symptoms. And I didn't really associate them necessarily with COVID. I didn't really know what I was dealing with. And so when Amelie said, oh, hey, I've got this going on. I'm in the hospital right now. You need to take this seriously. I was like, oh, shit. And, you know, in fact, she may have saved my life because within 12 hours of that, I think, you know, I was in the hospital. I was taken by ambulance because I was having severe crushing chest pain, numbness, squeezing, tingling in my left arm. You know, it felt like somebody was standing on my chest. And
you mentioned, I think, this is my chicken scratch note that I put down here, pericarditis?
Pericarditis.
Yeah. What's that? I'm going to assume that our listeners also have no idea what that is.
It's inflammation of your heart tissue and a little, and like water around the heart. It's an envelope around your heart that kind of fills a little bit with water and gets inflamed. Kind of, right?
I learned about it. It's the protective sac around your heart is the pericardium, I think. And then it's, that was the common thread medically between all of our stories. And that,
So I was diagnosed with pericarditis shortly after Amelie reached out to me. And then another mutual acquaintance in the art world saw that I had started posting about this experience on Instagram and said, oh, hey, you need to talk to my friend Becca, and sent me her coordinates, and I reached out to her.
And you're in Gatineau?
Currently. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm in Montreal. And then when WhiteFeather reached out to me, I guess you were kind of the first person who I talked to. I had talked to a couple different people around the world through different friends. But you had almost exactly the same symptoms as I had, even down to like the left arm, shooting pains at the left arm, going straight out into my heart. Through
the armpit.
Yeah, right through the armpit, up into the heart. I couldn't even, I'm still having trouble with my left arm. So, and this at the time also, I never associated it with COVID a lot because at first I thought maybe it was something else because I had felt like I was getting better. And then about a bit over a month in, I suddenly just completely crashed, and it was like my lungs were on fire, and I couldn't actually stand up. I was like doubled over, and I was having crazy numbness in my left arm and shooting pains in my esophagus and my head and all these things. And so, you know, ended up in the hospital multiple times, like 5 times, I think. And then, spoke to WhiteFeather, and she was. And
our message thread was like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Immediately it was like, me too.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I had just discovered body politic at that time. And so I said, do you know about this thing? And then, which is what I say to any person who comes to me who's like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, just join this thing, because that was the thing that made me stop going to the emergency room, because I just realized that there were so many thousands of us, and that the emergency room doctors, like, I needed to get to specialists, which now I have, and it was a fight to get. But the emergency room doctors don't know what to do with you. There's nowhere for them to put you. And then every time you go, you're exposing yourself to more things and potential secondary infections. So it just, they really didn't have solutions other than slamming my body full of a lot of morphine and anticoagulants and anti-inflammatories and that type of thing. So it was
steroids.
Yeah. I actually never got steroids. They refused to give me them because they were too scared that it would put me over the edge and potentially kill me. So I never received steroids, and they still are not sure if they'll ever give them to me because they're still doing tests and they're still not willing to do them until I have more tests. I'm still getting extensive testing. So, but it was because I was at a certain point where I was so bad that they thought if you have any of the infection left in your system at this point, and we give you even a low dose steroid and that suppresses your immune system even a little bit, you could die. So we're not going to take that chance. So they said to me, literally, you just have to pretend that you're being tortured and like meditate through it. That was like what I got. And I got a blood pressure monitor and oximeter at home, and I just had to monitor it hour by hour.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of advice for chronic pain is like, it's mostly just like distraction. It's not even something that's going to help with your actual pain, but just like whatever you can do. Like I wanted to punch a computer screen when, the first time I read, like, listen to some music. I was like, okay, I get it. Distraction is great, but like, you can only be distracted.
There was no distraction from this, unfortunately. I wish I wish there could have been, but there was no way. It was a complete and full body experience of like, I didn't really I was on at certain points, like 4 different types of anti-inflammatories. I was on, 3 drugs, taking morphine plus 3 droppers of CBD and 1 of THC every 3 hours. And that was like just enough to keep me out of the hospital, basically.
Can we just say how amazing CBD oil has been?
Yeah. Can we just round of applause for CBD, like right now? Like,
Thank you, CBD.
Thank you. To pick up that thread, so then I connected Amelie and Becca, and we became a group of 3. And shortly after that, another friend, a choreographer I know in Montreal, said, "Hey, I've seen that you've been going through this stuff, and I have a friend who, is on her own right now dealing with this, and I'd really like to connect you." And I was like, "Yes, please." So then I got introduced to Krista and brought Krista into the fold.
Yeah, it was interesting. So it was a childhood friend actually, and I kind of briefly explained what I was going through. And then it was interesting because another friend from a different circle who is a visual artist, he also said, you should really contact WhiteFeather. And at first I was a little bit shy. And again, like Amelie mentioned, like, do I just dive into something super, bodily, personal? But at this point, I actually didn't really, I just gave her. And I was so happy that WhiteFeather responded in such a positive and welcoming way. Because, there's
definitely a moment where your desperation overpowers your shame. Capabilities,
big time.
Like, and as Amelie said, like, she felt shy and potentially saved WhiteFeather's life. So let's have a shout out to, like, don't be shy, like Cat Stevens said.
Exactly.
Like, reach out to people. So please carry on.
So that was what brought me in. And what was kind of interesting about the whole scenario for me was that I had all of the classic COVID symptoms for the month of December, but they were not talking about it then. And who knows if it was that, but I literally had all of them. But then this was December, and then it subsided and faded away. And I was on tour in March in Texas, and this all started bubbling to the surface. I was like, I got to get back home. And I got home and I had the similar pain that I had in my chest from back then. At that time, they thought was maybe pneumonia, but it was ruled out. And so I ignored this pain for weeks thinking, it's just whatever, residual thing, or maybe it's whatever it is. And until the palpitations began and the squeeze of the chest. And then I went in and got this scan, a CT scan that revealed that I had pericarditis, inflammation around my heart, which is not part of my family history. I've never had a heart condition. And I'm like, and the doctor literally said, usually you get this when you're recovering from a virus. But they used to test me for COVID at that point because I had no no symptoms other than the heart condition.
Wow.
That's in a nutshell.
Yeah. Oh, it's just a random virus during like a global pandemic, right?
It's like it could be any other virus or it could be COVID. Anyway, that was and so I was so happy to meet WhiteFeather and Becca and Amelie because I had literally zero confirmation or any even possibility from any of the doctors I talked to. So I went home and I had zero medication. They would not prescribe me anything for either pain or inflammation. And
wow.
So on a completely, I had nothing. I had extra strength Tylenol at night for the week and a half. I thought I was going to die from the heart pain. And thankfully I was already on supplements through a naturopath. And they are some of the supplements that now we've all been talking about these.
Yeah, we all take the same ones.
The NAC. I was already on acetylcysteine, which who knows? But anyway, this is in a nutshell. How I got brought in and how interesting the heart.
Yeah, we all. Well, I know for me and Becca for sure. Amelie, not so much. Krista, not so much, I guess. But we were prescribed a grab bag of medications. Like I was prescribed about 7 different medications, like narcotics, steroids, naproxen, which is an anti-inflammatory that can basically kill your stomach, a stomach medication, pantoprazole, which is death on wheels, inhalers, other stomach medications, you name it. And the 4 of us together have sort of been hashing out and trying out and sharing with each other the most effective herbal remedies that, we've used and have found good results with. CBD oil being the top, but,
And curcumin, just from curcumin is like game changer. I can't function in the daytime if I don't have curcumin.
Yeah, I have a turmeric latte every morning instead of coffee now, which is delicious and thins my blood and kills the pain.
I wasn't on any medication. They only gave me Tylenol or paracetamol here, because here in Europe they very early said that they would not prescribe any anti-inflammatories. Because they said it was worse. So basically, they just said go home and go through the shit with paracetamol. And at some point, I got opium, and then I got the
colchicine. Didn't you get colchicine at some point? But you didn't take it.
That was pretty recent. That was maybe 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
But I didn't take it.
You didn't? Yeah, no.
I took the curcuma. So for my part, I never took anything but morphine and opium a little bit, but yeah.
And again, that's not a cure. It's like a distraction.
Yeah,
it basically numbs, it keeps you out of the hospital, basically.
It was just I can somehow rest for 2 hours before the pain comes back kicking. Anything else, and there is no position. There is for me, it was not someone sitting on my chest. It was really like a donkey.
Large mammal.
Yeah, and all over the ribs, the rib.
Oh
cage.
God, the ribs.
Fuck.
Yeah.
So
Never had a break.
How are all of you dealing with the misinformation, trying to figure out what's what? As someone who doesn't actually, knock wood, I guess I haven't been tested, so I'm hiding in the woods this whole time. So hopefully, again, knock wood, let the fairies out. The most difficult part for me is trying to wade through these and of course we live in a time where the internet, anybody who has a computer connection can be writing articles. I'm using scare quotes for everybody who's listening. Anybody can say whatever they want. And so again, like, I'm super grateful to have had WhiteFeather being so candid about your experience, because again, like, I trust not only your values, but like your scientific mind, you know, the side that you respect the scientific method at very least, or methodology of some kind. So how have you all been rooting through all of the information?
Collectively, together. You know, that's really important. But yeah, and you're very lucky to be a witch in the woods, I have to say, because you know, each one of us contracted this through travel.
Yeah.
You know, we were all somewhere, we had to travel, and as a result, sort of were floored by it.
Yeah.
And we all contracted it right around the same time, although Krista, you were a little bit earlier, but right around the time just before the lockdown happened.
Yeah.
You know, so in a way, what we've been experiencing together is that we've been compiling and sorting through information and coming up with our own answers before they hit the mainstream.
Yeah, I would say like a lot of what's been helping us and me kind of get through this information is the fact that, like, being inside these groups, people are sharing the latest scientific studies, people are sharing the latest herbal remedies, or they're saying like, my doctor gave me this, or my osteopath told me this, ask for this test. Certain things like there was a guy in the group who was talking about how he tested negative multiple times, and he knew that it was in his spine. Like, he was in so much pain, and he begged his doctor to do a spinal tap. And then the doctor did a spinal tap, and they found COVID-19 in his spine. And then that was something that, like, I had been considering asking my neurologist for a spinal tap. And even though I had a positive test, I felt like it was more in my nervous system, and I still have no taste and smell. So I was really wanting to know a little bit more about that. And he said that, and I think that's also part of like the expanding of testing, like, and people who, have done stool tests, like they're just starting to do stool tests and finding it. And all those people are testing negative. And we're kind of hearing that in the groups earlier before that's even hitting the mainstream news.
Yeah.
And also I feel like we've educated ourselves so much scientifically that we can call bullshit on something almost immediately. We're like, no, that's bullshit. That's the T cells, or that's this or that. And, it's kind of like we really are, I feel like because I'm spending hours a day reading this stuff because I'm feeding it to my doctors, and I'm like, I now have, because I've been speaking out about it, I have, and I'm sure it's the same with you, WhiteFeather, and Krista, maybe you too, but because I've been speaking about it publicly, because I want people to know how awful it was, and I want them to take precautions, now all these people are starting to reach out to me being like, I'm really sick, I have this and that, and it's all through friends. So I'm getting like 15, 20 messages a day from people all over the world that I'm like, okay, well, what about this? Have you taken this? What's your vitamin levels? And it's like, I'm not like telling people what to do. I'm saying, this is what helped me, like electrolytes, curcumin, eating bananas, you're going to pee out all your potassium, like
bromelain,
quercetin,
bromelain queen over there.
That's actually strange, because every time I take bromelain, I don't have a good day.
Really? That's so interesting.
I took it like 4 times, and not
I wonder why.
Everybody's different.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Zinc. I took zinc for 2 months every day. Then I had a break, and then I bought some like very efficient. I don't know what it's called, like liquid that you put under your tongue. Mm-hmm. And every time I have to puke, so I stop. Oh,
me too. That zinc happens to me too, and I have to take way smaller amounts of the spray stuff because it makes me vomit. Okay. I don't know what that is. We're just like getting totally into it. We're in public.
It gives me zits. Okay. Zinc gives me zits, so you look worse and you feel worse.
Oh my god. But the thing that's interesting about all this is that, since I don't know exactly when we all 4 ended up in the same thread at this point, because I can't remember exactly what day that was, but since then I think we've spoken every single day, multiple times a day. Our thread has been all day, every day, someone wakes up in the middle of the night, has a weird thing going on, their heart rate shoots up, someone's blood pressure's low, and it's like hour by hour, even like relationship stuff. We're just like, whatever is going through the motions, we're like, we're there. And it's like, it is a true coven, I think. Yeah.
Including sharing information about the latest and greatest vibrator.
Which I still have to get one, but anyway.
Yeah.
I was not in that list.
My supplements took precedence. I have a bit of a budget, so the supplements were first, and then the vibrator comes later. So
yeah.
Because if you don't even have the energy to masturbate, then what's the point?
Exactly. If your heart is racing even before you do it, then
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like you've all kept your sense of humor. How do you manage?
A coping skill.
It comes and goes.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so let's talk about, like, I would say that maybe 2020 has been like my angriest year since I'm like 15 years old, you know? So how do you teach people that they should care about other people?
Oh God!
Wow.
Honestly, I'm not able to cope with that. Actually, I'm still like because my brain is so, I don't know how to say. I mean, I feel extremely stupid. Like I feel dumb. Like I mean, it's getting better, but it's very hard for me to articulate thought.
Yeah, we all have neurological dysfunction, big time.
For example,
me. For some reason, I don't know why. Because
well,
I don't
lucky you.
No, I
because
do.
you had it in January or you had it in December.
Yeah, that's the one thing for me that I feel that I haven't had that similar experience. And I've been following the threads of all three women about the neurological elements. Yeah. And I've been finding it very, I mean, I live alone and I've been alone, and I am so thankful that I don't have that particular set, because I think alone with neurological issues, from what I've heard through their experiences, it would be extremely hard to keep going day to day. And my coping mechanism alone, as a single person living alone in an apartment in a scary city where people aren't really very respectful outside. I've been making masks since this began at the end of March. I've been sewing masks. I've masked over 250 people from Canada, US, France, Amelie. I've sent some to, and Becca, and I haven't to WhiteFeather yet because you have.
We need to do a trade.
But we should do a trade. Yeah. But to me, I've been putting in my good energy and what I consider my magic powers into these masks, and I've been masking people for health purposes and spiritual purposes, and that's become a daily practice for me. So that's one of the things.
If some, let's say one or two of our listeners out there are still, I'm going to use the L word, too lazy, or have come up with some other reason, can you just give me like the 1-2 punch that's going to shake them out of whatever the fuck this is that they're not thinking or thinking? Yeah, I'm angry. I said
about wearing a mask.
About mask wearing.
But which? Yeah. Oh, masks.
Mask wearing. Yeah.
You're talking about mask holes?
Mask holes. Yeah.
You're talking about mask holes and mask bashing, which I think most of us have experienced.
Yeah. I'm happy to take your emails, listeners, if you do have a problem with this. I'm not sure how you rationalize that. Maybe you can email me and try to explain to me how you rationalize
I just had
not caring about other people. But yeah, Emily, go ahead.
I just had a talk earlier tonight because it's evening here, with the father of my daughter, with whom I'm not living anymore. And he posted yesterday or maybe the day before, I don't remember, something about...
I think it was 2 days ago.
Yeah,
Time doesn't exist. Time doesn't exist. We don't have to worry about it.
About, how wearing masks was a manipulation. It was useless because, I mean, he's a really clever guy. And I've just been like, what the fuck? Like, he's been like supportive with our daughter. She's 9. I was not able at all to see her for 5 weeks And then I could only see her for like 2 hours every second or third day for like another more than a month. So I mean, like, you know, he was like in the shit with me somehow without being here. And then, yeah, just like 2 days ago, wearing mask. And I was like, what the fuck? I mean, still inside of me, I know he's not like an asshole. So I'm just like trying to understand what the fuck is going on. Like, why are you spreading this stupid thing? And why am I finding out that he's going to the grocery store with our daughter without masks?
Wow.
Oh my God.
What the fuck? Like, seriously.
Oh man.
And last week he was sick for 10 days, coughing and sleeping a lot, and he didn't go to the doctor and he didn't get tested. And I had to, you know, like get the story through my daughter and then like write to him in the middle of the night saying, what the actual fuck? Yeah. And my answer is that I think he's still in some sort of like denial.
Yeah.
And so I would tell people, to answer your question, I would say that I would say that I was very healthy. I was like sporty. I think we can all say that it was our health situation. I never had any heart issues, like nothing. The only thing that happened to me, I broke my back, you know, once. I broke a vertebra, but other than that, I never had any health issues at all. So maybe just like hear that, because that's not what maybe that's like one of the things you should put your nose into rather into the mask debate, if there is any. Like, try to look, why is nobody or very few people talking about the actual reality of this disease?
Yeah.
You know, aside from people dying or just the flu.
Yeah, that's the takeaway for sure. And I think, you know, with the internet, you always have very polarized black and white conversations, or micro conversations, I guess, happening, and no one actually understands the more nuanced reality of the situation, no matter what the situation is on the internet, but especially with this situation. And, you know, I've had to disown family members who are actually taking the time to produce YouTube videos where they're talking about how people who wear masks are stupid. And I'm thinking, try on COVID. You fucking try it on. And then talk to me about, you know, not wearing a mask. And I think, you know, we all are very committed to protecting the public now, because, you know, so little is known about this disease that we don't even know if we're still infectious or not. You know, I mean, we don't think we are, but, you know, it's like 4 months later, we don't think we are, but nobody actually knows. And I, like Amelie mentioned, I was at peak health before I got infected with COVID.
Like
I was cycling
marathons.
Yeah, I was cycling like, 200 kilometers a week. You know, like that's athletic. And now, I mean, I can take a walk along the river. I'm not really back on my bike. My coordination is completely fucked up because of the neurological issues. I've fallen off my bike twice since getting sick with COVID. You know, the last time I fell off my bike was in grade 6. So I'm still, I mean, it's a multi-systemic mess in your body. And do you really want to take that risk?
I think a lot of people don't understand like this massive gray area between like asymptomatic and dead. And even now they're talking about like asymptomatic people are having damage, like lung damage, and they're finding all this stuff even on people who don't feel anything. But what you don't realize, you might think that will get over it, but they're saying right now, and this is like a very conservative estimate, which is like that 1 in 10 people will suffer long-term symptoms, and that are neurological, cardiac, and, you know, obviously pulmonary. And with all of those things, they don't actually have any treatment for it. So even when you get to the specialist, they're like, yeah, we know, but we don't really know what to do. We don't really have a treatment. So I have right now, and I think like, I know that like WhiteFeather you have, and we all have a lot of doctors. I have right now, neurologist, pulmonologist, ear, nose, throat, rhinologist, infectious disease specialist, like cardiologist, like multiple cardiologists, rheumatologists, on top of like 2 doctors and, you know, a swath of other random people that have helped me along the way. And they all kind of don't really know what to do with us at all. And the only people that have really helped have been acupuncturists, osteopaths, like people who actually like, but we didn't even have access to them until like a month ago or less, like a few weeks ago, because we were like, you know, we got the plague and no one wanted to let us in anywhere. So, you know, then now that we're allowed back in and they're able to treat us, like that's the most relief that I've had with my heart and with everything. But I mean, the neurological stuff is real. I have internal tremors. I have trouble with my left arm. I'm having trouble with nerve shooting pain in my body. On top of the brain fog, on top of like all these other things. Dysautonomia. And this is like another thing about these groups that's been pretty amazing is that I have some people in there that are like in my DMs that are like scientists and really working high up at World Health Organization working groups and all these different places that are like really on the front lines pushing these studies. And so like I can actually kind of message them and say like, what about this and what about that? And they've actually given me a lot more information than my own doctors. Like, you know, the guy from the working group in New York, David Petrino, who's amazing, and he's at Mount Sinai. He said to me, well, you know, your taste and smell hasn't come back yet, and it could take a really long time because the nerves, when they get severely damaged in your olfactory bulb, it grows at 6 millimeters, or sorry, it was 1 millimeter per week. Yeah, so exactly. It's such a small amount. And you can
feel them regrowing.
Yeah, it's just, or it's like 1 or 6, I can't remember, but I can't remember. But it is like a really small amount per week which it's growing. And so I'm kind of just, they say the longer that it goes, the less likely it's going to come back. I'm just crossing my fingers. And I'm also part of, I know that you all have your taste and smell mostly, right, back?
Except I've been having phantasmia.
Really?
Phantasmia for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, because I have that too, and I'm on all these groups on Facebook, and there's so many people who also were sick in March and still don't have it. And I think also people don't understand that. There's a lot of us. So
I think it's such a spectrum. That's part of what's so difficult. And I think it's because we haven't had the en masse personal stories like ours in the public. I every time I read one, I really appreciate it, like an actual person talking about their long-term experience. And come out. And I think that's going to help a lot with what's going on and people being in denial, because once you start hearing more and more actual people on the street of various ages talking about what actually happens, i.e. they're not asymptomatic or dead, then I think hopefully that will help. But for me, right when I heard about it, I was like brought back to like childhood trauma of like having an asthma attack so severe. I was in an air bubble. And when I heard about what had happened to a couple people, including one person in Montreal who was in peak health and is in his 20s and was in the hospital and almost died.
Yeah.
That immediately, I treated it as if I had it and I didn't want it to give to anyone. And I made those masks, and that, to me, I was hoping more people would be in that mindset. But
and also for the mask, I just want to add quickly that it's not necessarily that I believe that the mask is working like a super shield. I just think it's a sign of, or like a reminder, like I want to keep my distance, na. You know, it's just like a sort of like a symbol.
Yeah.
Okay, all the arguments, I hear them like that are saying like, a virus is actually going through the mask and you need the pores to be that tight, Okay, fine. But still, and also like you can't come with like, like saying things like that when you live in a small place with a density of population that is quite like, low, and then compared to fucking Europe, because what I mean by that is that the father of my daughter was like giving me an example of a Canadian scientist, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, here everybody is kissing each other, like just to say hello.
Oh God.
No, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. No, but I mean, not with the tongue, but yeah.
What's that? I haven't even hugged someone in 4 months. Tongue kisses?
No.
French
I don't even kiss my partner.
Oh
on the
my
cheek.
God.
So
Really?
They're not doing it here, but
Wow.
but I've seen people doing it. I mean, it's
Oh
not
my
as
God.
common as it was, but like okay. So, I mean, like, okay, wearing a mask is just a sign of, hey, just
Solidarity.
like, your distances, no?
Yeah. Do either of you get like slightly triggered when you go outside, or you're in a space and there's a lot of people around not masking and not physical
Oh my
distancing,
God.
and like I like actually like
Oh,
I get triggered.
anxiety.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think maybe this is a good point to talk about the trauma that goes along with having this disease, because
Yeah.
we are all left with PTSD.
Yeah.
We all had points in our illness where many nights passed where we were afraid to go to sleep at night because we didn't know if we were going to wake up in the morning. And that's a true story. I mean, my partner used to wake up in the middle of the night and check to see if I was still breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to go out into public and to see all of these people carrying on as if there's no pandemic, not wearing a mask, not social distancing, coming at you the wrong way down the aisles in the grocery store.
Yeah.
My response is to get violent. Like, I feel violent when I see people threatening me in that way.
Yeah.
It's like fight or flight response. And for a long time, I was having panic attacks and in anxiety mode and in that flight response. At the height of my COVID symptoms. Now I'm in fight mode. And not only do I want to fight for people to recognize that this is a serious thing, it doesn't matter who the fuck you are, you can get it, and stay the hell out of my space. Like, I've yelled at people in the grocery store, you're going the wrong way, when they're coming at me down the aisle, because it's threatening and I am traumatized.
Yeah.
Usually I would be the same as you, but I don't even have the strength for that. Like,
I mostly don't usually have the energy for that either.
I can't. Like, it's not that I don't want to, but I feel like it's draining. It's draining me, and I could like probably just like fall asleep if it had like I don't know. No, but no, but like it's that serious that you. Even if you see, like for me, even if I see something like that, I'm choosing, which is totally not my nature, but to just like fall back on myself.
You're just like shutting down. Yeah.
Yeah.
I called out a grocery store worker the other day when I went to get some stuff, and he wasn't wearing a mask, and I was in a mood, and I was like, you should probably wear a mask. You're going to be in contact with a lot of people. And, I had coronavirus, and it was, and he just looked at me like, what? Like, so shocked.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, it was like a nightmare. And I told him like, I have all this, and he just kind of was silent and was like almost humiliated, fumbling like, well, I have it in my pocket. I just haven't put it on. And I'm like, yeah, it's not a joke. Like, and in Montreal, it's weird right now because there's a lot of people gathering inside in closed spaces, in restaurants,
bars. I can't believe it.
Bars. And it's like they're opening, office buildings to 25% capacity, yet they're opening bars with more capacity. Which doesn't make any sense.
Drunk people are really good at like following rules and social distancing.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't really know what the answer is, but I know that society is not designed to deal with this type of pandemic, and that I think everything is just going to have to be completely redesigned. Society has to be completely redesigned, because I don't think it's going away anytime soon, especially with the way that the governments are not actually following the science of what it is. which is an airborne like disease.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, there's oh, sorry. Go ahead, Amy.
I wanted to mention that, the pros and cons of living in the woods. One of the cons is that, like, I live in rural Quebec, which is certainly not the most progressive place in the world. And it's an aging population here in my small town. And my spouse is getting, like, literally the asshole with the mask. Oh, isn't that a bit excessive?
Really?
Like, oh, yeah. Like, it's like...
I get it in Gatineau. I get it in Gatineau as well.
Wow.
If I go into a grocery store with a mask on, I actually had one man look at me and say, "Le Covid, c'est fini."
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah, COVID is finished for the...
Yeah.
What?
Wow.
You got that, yeah.
Oh yeah, I had someone say that, and also I in a small town too. I went in and I had like a little thing of sanitizer and a mask on, and I think I was getting a bunch of things, and I just grabbed a glove from the car, like a plastic, and she's like, "C'est bien préparé là."
Hey, you're very prepared.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
I'm very, very prepared, and
You've heard of the plague, right?
Thank you. Yeah,
And you're welcome.
yeah,
Like,
What part of the
you are welcome.
plague?
yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
God.
So,
I
Chris...
have that amongst my friends, even. Like,
Yeah.
saying, like,
Your friends.
it's pretty puzzling because I don't like to sort of like, diss people and just say they are stupid. So but like I'm trying, like it hurts me to just even say that. So I'm just like, there must be something inside, like, and actually they are trying. Again, like my only or like perpetual answer to this is just like, they're just trying to reassure themselves.
Yeah, it's just cognitive dissonance. It's like
fucking like traumatizing, and I know it's horrible. I mean, we've been also like shit scared is not even a word that could describe how we.
Yeah, I've never been so scared in my life. I've never experienced that much terror in my life.
Yeah.
Repetitively too. Like,
yeah.
I think
people are trying to just like sort of like reassure, like, yeah, but now it's over. Like, like people are coming to see me and just telling me, yeah, but now it's behind you. You have to get over it. Fuck. What the fuck do you know? Like in the middle of the night when I wake up and actually my right eye can't open on its own.
Yeah.
And this is happened the past 2 weeks. Now I have to go for a fucking MRI of the optic nerve. Like, am I supposed to chill?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the interesting things that was in the thread the other day was both WhiteFeather and Amelie saying that this was much worse than childbirth.
Mm-hmm.
And also Amelie breaking her back.
Pleasure.
Yeah,
and I read something recently, you can maybe back me up or not, but that menstrual cramps are like equivalent pain to heart attacks in some cases, and I think that this goes back to what you were saying in WhiteFeather at the beginning of the conversation. Like it's a feminist issue that women especially are just told to ignore their pain or that it's normal.
I literally was told by a male doctor to stop paying attention to my symptoms because it was all just caused by anxiety.
Yeah. I got told that it was anxiety when I was in the hospital for like the 5th time. Or he said, "You seem really anxious." And I said, "Yeah, I feel like I'm having a heart attack and I can't breathe. So it's causing me some anxiety right now."
Yeah.
And, it didn't really do much. But he also just wrote COVID resolved in my file at that point. And I was in a lot of pain from pericarditis and from a lot of other things. And so that's another thing that I think is something to talk about, the fact that they're calling all these files resolved when all these people are still chronically ill.
Yeah.
It's like resolved is like not dead and probably not going to die. Like in our arms in this moment.
Yeah.
Resolved.
Exactly.
Resolved literally means that we are not contagious after 2 weeks. That's what for me. That's what it means.
As far as they know, yeah.
For me, it just means that we're not dead. I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When this all began, I told myself that it was probably anxiety for 3 weeks. That's how well, I feel like I've been trained in this culture to like kind of deny myself what's going on until it became so physically evident that it wasn't just anxiety. And then it was almost like a triumph when I had the CT scan done, and it was something literal on an, that they could look at it and see, there it is.
Yeah.
For me, it's like this whole process has just re-taught me that I have to listen to my intuition and use a combined effort of like what medical science there is out there, kind of the spiritual element, and my own gut, feeling. I
So
think.
Krista, in all the years that I've known you, which has been many, I know that you contend with everything that happens in your life by writing songs about it. Have you written your COVID song yet? Or how many COVID songs?
I haven't written the COVID opus yet, no, but I was thinking a lot about I haven't sent the Coven, the Girl Possessed song, but I thought that would be a pretty fun one because, we were talking about the menstrual cramps being, equivalent of a heart attack. And I did have, I had endometriosis, and I've had 3 surgeries for that. Wow. And I have had, I did have one moment where I ended up at the ER, and I thought it must be something like an ulcer or something super extreme, that something had ruptured. And basically it was an extreme cramping period from endometriosis that was mimicking what I was told after is like contractions from birthing contractions.
Wow.
I was sweaty, yellow, and I blacked out at my first day on the job in Toronto. And anyway, in the ER, the doctor said to me, "Oh, this is perfectly normal. Like most women get this when they get their periods. I'm just going to write you a prescription for these muscle relaxants." And I'm thinking, what? How all women are going through this every month? Like from around 12
normal.
or whatever. I was like, oh my God. And then that became part of the Girl Possessed song as well. It came back years later. But anyways, all this off in a tangent.
Can we?
About, Amy.
I was asking you if you'd written the COVID opus yet. I know there's got to be an EP coming out. Like
there's a lot of angsty songs right now. One of them was Hot Stink that I wrote 2 days ago when I biked somewhere to get some stuff to make masks, and I was punched in the face with the compost smell of Montreal, which is atrocious for anyone that lives in the city. It has a
and it's
compost
been so hot lately.
I haven't been able to smell it. So
bonus.
Silver lining.
Yeah.
Well, I'm waking up in the middle of the night smelling foul smells. So
That's right. Maybe I'll write a anti-smell song.
Yeah. Are you smelling, WhiteFeather, are you smelling smoke at all?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I have
I'm
that
smelling.
Too
I wake up in the middle of the night smelling burning plastic, toast, baking bread once. Yeah, and also like burning rusty metal, like as if a cast iron pan is on fire.
Yeah. For me, it was, well, go ahead. What were you saying?
No, I was just going to say, like, waking up with no smell, I feel like is less terrifying than waking up to burning smell. My house is on fire. My house is on fire. Like, I was just terrified on your behalf. Please, Becca, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, for me, like, it was categorically nothing for a really long time. And in which case, and during that time, I burned many things on the stove. I almost ate a couple things that were rotten. Because I just literally couldn't tell.
Boiled milk, like that's we open the carton.
No, I have to get my partner to smell every single thing that I consume because I have no. But then I guess maybe a month and a half ago, I started getting everything started smelling or tasting like smoke. So when I inhaled it, it would smell like smoke. But if I ate a burrito, it would taste like smoke. So it was anything that I would consume. An orange juice, it tastes like smoke. And then now it's kind of, then there was like a few days where everything tasted like garbage or like the most disgusting foul, like my food I put in my mouth and I'm like, oh, like it's so disgusting.
Yeah. And for me, it tasted like tinfoil.
Yeah. For me, it wasn't tinfoil, but it was just like gross. Like it was maybe like as if I was eating compost, like that type of like the gross rotten smell. And taste. And so that happened. And then that went away and it went back to nothing. And then it went back to the smoke. And then it went back to the kind of garbagey whatever. And now I'm kind of in a weird middle ground where I don't really have it. So I don't know. Like at first I thought, okay, well, because it's evolving, maybe it's just the regeneration and it's, but who knows? I mean, some people have phantasmia and anosmia and it lasts forever and other times it heals. So I'm just hoping that my nerves were severely damaged and they're just slowly just taking a long time to grow back.
Yeah. I can tell that my nerves are growing back because for about 24 hours, I had these weird pinprick feelings all over my body, like arms, legs, feet, hands. Which is a sign that nerves are regenerating, hopefully.
One interesting thing, which I don't know if we've talked about in the thread, is with all the pains that we've been getting, is endothelial. This is maybe too nerdy for this podcast, but it's a blood vessel disease. And they're saying that, I read somewhere the other day that it takes 4 months for a complete regeneration of the endothelial cells.
Oh, interesting.
And so I was wondering, I'm like, interesting, because I do feel like I've turned a corner in the past like week and a half in a different way, because there was a certain point, there was a while where it felt like I had like acid going through my veins under my heart. Yeah. And that feeling I haven't had in maybe a couple weeks. And I was just, then I heard about the regenerating of that and how it takes 4 months. And I was like, interesting. I wonder. Anyways, it's a thought.
Yeah. I'm still having the internal vibrations, like these really deep core tremors.
Yeah, me too.
But I've noticed that in about the past week, it's barely noticeable now. So
that's good.
It's definitely starting to go away. Yeah.
But we're still seeing new cases all over the place. I mean, have you dealt a lot, maybe through the Body Positive, with people who are living in the States and contending with this without socialized medicine? I know none of us are American, but can any of you speak to the experience of your friends or your peers or your colleagues who are navigating a completely different healthcare system?
I don't know anyone in the States that has it that I've spoken to. Sorry, WhiteFeather, go ahead.
Yeah, for a lot of people, it's a huge economic concern, and that's something that's also not talked about with COVID and having this disease. And it's something I think needs to be talked about more, because people, especially people like us, artists, we're in an economically precarious position. Thankfully, in Canada, we have access to free healthcare. Otherwise, we would be completely fucked.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what you're seeing with a lot of people in the U.S. right now. I mean, some people can't even afford to see a specialist. I've seen a neurologist. We've seen specialists, and it's not out of pocket for us. But that's what they're struggling with in the U.S. People are coming out of hospitals with $1 million medical bills if they've been on a ventilator for any amount of time. And I think, for a lot of people like the anti-maskers who we were talking about, I think we need to put things in economic terms for people. Like, you are looking at a debilitating disease that's going to put you on your ass for a minimum of 4 months where you can't work. What does that look like economically? What else? Assuming you survive, which not everybody does, what's your reality going to look like when you have no income for 4 months? So in the U.S., this is a big problem that I'm seeing.
Yeah, which also brings it back to why negative tests need to be basically, they need to be presumed positive if people have the symptoms, because 66% of people who are positive will test negative on the 21st day of their infection, which means and usually the way that it works, which from what I've seen, is that people if they don't die within the first couple of weeks, they have a pretty rough few weeks, and then they start to feel better, and then they get slammed at the month mark, and they go downhill. And at that point, you're not going to test positive. And if you have to test positive to be able to get any type of employment benefits or like unemployment or disability or whatever, it can't happen. It has to be globally recognized that we need to be including presumed positives and
clinical diagnoses.
Yeah, and making the doctors put it in your file, like presumed positive, because it changes the way that people treat you. And I was lucky enough to be positive, but the three of you didn't get a positive test. And I've heard nightmare stories from people all across the world, like from South Korea, from Europe, from all over, that have kind of been undermined completely from no matter what the healthcare system is, just because of a negative test. And even though they're known to be so faulty. So
I chose not to mention that anymore. It's not my reality. It's there. I'm just saying that I had COVID, and actually no one is asking anymore. They were like maybe the past like a month ago, but now for months I never had the question like, did you test positive? It's just like not even in the discussion anymore. I'm like, I would even advise to lie.
Yeah.
It's and in terms of, you know, getting treatment for COVID, there is no treatment for COVID. There's only treatment for, you know, the various systems that it havoc on. So, you know, but it is a good point though that you're bringing up, Becca, and one thing that we are arguing a lot, one thing that we have spoken to journalists about a lot is that there's a reluctance to diagnose COVID based on clinical assessment. And that just means consider the set of symptoms that people are presenting with. There is now, you know, a very specific set of symptoms. It's broad, of course, and, you know, some of those symptoms fall into categories for other diseases. So, of course, doctors need to sort of rule out other things. But if you look at the set of symptoms all together as one, it's very easy to see that this is COVID, whether or not there's a positive test or a negative test. You know, for me, when I got it, like most of us, when we got it, there was not wide testing happening. You know, I was refused a test. They didn't test me until a month later. And of course I tested negative. You know, it wasn't in my sinus cavity at that point. It was in my lungs and my heart.
Yeah. And just one more thing that I want to add to that is that this person one of the people who I've been speaking to a lot, who is doing the working group for the World Health Organization, who's at Mount Sinai, he said that the consensus globally right now with the specialists who are in the working groups and who are studying it the most are including negatives now as positives, but it's not known enough globally right now. So it needs to kind of be blasted out, I think, a little bit more to the doctors and to all the different types of, like, you know, healthcare systems that are happening, because it just seems like people don't know, you know, and I think a lot of the doctors are so slammed with patients that they're not doing the research. Like they don't have time. I've sent so many articles to my doctors and they've never seen it. They don't even know. I heard nothing about this at all. They don't have the time to research it. And that's another problem. I mean,
I can say also that I have been followed or just seen the chief infectiologist here in my hometown in Normandy. And I have been also seeing a professor infectiologist in Paris. And she has opened post, how do you say, like long haulers thing? Like,
long haulers.
Yeah. And they both wrote a letter, like she wrote a letter of recommendation for a neurologist, and he wrote a letter to the pain center. I don't know if you have that in Canada, but
we do, but it's impossible to get in. It takes, well, at least in Quebec. Yeah.
Okay. So like he wrote a letter, and basically at maybe like a week distance, and he writes that I probably don't have COVID because I tested, because my serologies are negative. And she writes like completely different, because she has like 200 patients like me.
Wow.
Her, like she told me, under her, what do you say, like watch. And so she just writes like she's experiencing this like neurological stuff, the arm, the left arm, and then she says, like we are seeing in all of our like people like that, and so because here in Normandy it was like very little actually infection. Sorry, my brain is starting to be meltdown. I can't.
We understand.
So let's wrap it up this way, like either a T-shirt slogan, or you know, what I know for sure. We'll start with Krista. Can you give me this is what I know for sure about COVID?
Oh wow, Amy.
I know.
What I know is that it is evil and it is painful and damaging, but through a mixture of science and intuition, I feel like we can heal. And my wish is that the world would stop for 14 days, everyone would stay in, and it would just completely go away. It's my wish.
Yeah.
The miracle
That would
wish
be amazing.
many of us have. Anyway, that's what I have to say.
Becca, what do you know for sure?
I know for sure that if we don't stop for 14 days, it's going to be around for a really long time. And I think that people, if they really want to go on and go on with life, there needs to be a collective acknowledgement that it's not going to go away unless it is a collective thing, or unless it's unfortunately forced by governments in a way that we don't want to happen. So, and it might not happen. It might just be. So, I mean, I guess maybe my message isn't as positive because I'm grateful to all of the people that I've met in this entire thing. And I feel like I've come out of it on a different, as a better human on a lot of levels, because it's been such a visceral experience. But I don't want my family members to get it. And so I would just say, and my family, protect your loved ones, encourage people to wear masks and, stay outdoors as much as you can with people that you're not potting it up with.
WhiteFeather, what do you know for sure?
What I know for sure about COVID is that it's a curse. It is a demonic curse. It's like having a demon enter your body, find every single weakness that you may have, and exploit that weakness.
Yeah.
This is what it is. And, as a witch, I've dealt with curses in the past. I have my techniques, I have my banishment spells, I have my protection spells. This is a curse that no spell, no single spell will defeat. So, I would say do all of the protection shit right up front, and my healing has come from this amazing circle of women that have gathered around me. And it extends beyond this circle of women who are all here talking right now to herbalists in New York who have sent me tinctures in the mail, and my cousin witch who's been wildcrafting herbs for me from my family farm, and all of these people who have come together to try to break this curse. But it is a curse.
All you witches out there, a lot of our spells used little bits of fabric, and I think we all know the best spell to do with a little bit of fabric from this point on. Put it over your fucking face. Oh my God.
Mask on!
Put it over your face.
Yes.
Jeez.
Yes.
If you have some left over, you can make little bundles with herbs and so on. But first step, first spell, first protection spell. Take a bit of
Wear a fucking mask.
Yourself.
Cover your goddamn face.
Krista, can we? Oh, go ahead.
I have an idea.
Yes.
I was in Mexico in residency before I came back in the beginning of March, and I bought on the market, this little. It's powder for getting lucky, for putting the all this stuff. We should make one.
Fairy dust.
Fairy dust. We should make something. Me, I just want to say that for me, yesterday was my 120th day of COVID.
Yeah.
And so I would say, to answer your question of a slogan, I would say 120 day of COVID.
And all I got was this lousy T-shirt.
All I got were these lousy masks that
Krista's talking through 3 masks.
So and again, this can be wearable art, this can be a fashion statement, this can be a political statement, like our T-shirt slogans that were so popular. You can do the same thing with a little piece of fabric over your face. Krista, can we exit with Girl Possessed?
Yeah.
Good.
Let's
I'm pretty
listen.
Sure
Awesome.
I'm pretty sure I have the
Yes.
episode, but if I don't, you're going to send me another one.
I'll send you. I'll send everybody in the
Yes.
COVID Coven a copy of that because
Yeah.
yeah. As a
Thank
side
you,
note,
Emily.
Amy, I just want to say because you didn't mention it, but we did a collaboration.
Of course we did.
For Amy made beautiful psychedelic visual videos for every single track from my album The Tides, which was dedicated to the women in Toronto who supported me at the Endometriosis Network.
Wow.
And I just want to say that I'm extremely grateful for this coven and for all the interconnectivity of all this, because it really does. It's very healing and empowering, and that's what we need right now.
Yeah.
Healing and empowering. So everyone stay safe, stay mighty, wear a mask, be vulnerable and candid in your experience, seek out people that you can relate to and talk to and be honest with it and still have them consider you a warrior. And stay safe and mighty. And now let's hear Girl Possessed by Krista Muir from her EP, The Tide.
Composed to the floor in a bloody mess, like a good possessed. Pulls across the floor in silence, think you can't undress. How to describe this feeling? Look me in the eye. Tell me this is perfectly normal. Oh, how you hold yourself. Saying it's gonna be alright. Yourself together, hold yourself up to the light. Oh, how you hold yourself through each morning and night. Oh, how you hold yourself together, weathering the storm, with always another inside. Hoping no one hears her cry, kill me now, like a good possessed. Impossible to keep from moving, pain you can't undress. How to describe this feeling? Look me in the eye. Tell me again, this is perfectly normal. Oh, how you hold yourself, knowing you know it's not alright. Every oversight. Oh, how you hold yourself. Tell yourself it's gonna be alright.